Welcome back to the I-71 Rundown. I'm Tyler, and I am flying solo today. I am going to be out this weekend. My sister-in-law, my wife's sister, is getting married to a great guy. And yes, it is a fall wedding. I know, I get it. They did have the courtesy, though, to ask me, when they got engaged, what weekend would be best, considering, the season that we're in. And I told them that as long as it's not the Texas weekend, it would be okay. And so they did the right respectable thing, and they chose games that were either less magnitude and, were courteous to us fellow Buckeye fans. So anyways, just wanted to do a little solo preview, just so I can get something out there for you guys, share my thoughts. I'm sure you guys will hear from Chris on the preview, the Ohio State-Ohio University game. It's good. We got the in-state showdown. It should be a relatively similar game to the Grambling State game, not as high scoring. They're not going to score 70 points, but not to say that in Ohio is not a national quality opponent, but it's going to be a step up from Grambling. I think it's great that Ohio State continues to schedule these in-state non-conference opponents. Brian Day made a comment that it's great to give Ohio kids, and there's a lot of Ohio kids on these MAC teams, a chance to play and chew. I think it's just an awesome thing, and it helps these smaller universities in Ohio, fund their programs and whatnot. So I think one Ohio college game a year is not a bad thing. So let's dive into the matchup, key players. What I kind of want to see from Ohio State, and what we'll be looking for, because every game you learn something about Ohio State. So first thing, there's been some grumblings that this may be a trap game. OU is an Ohio University, coming off a win against a Power 5 opponent, West Virginia. Also took Rutgers to the brink. Rutgers only won by 3. So a quality team. But the narrative that this may be a trap game just isn't quite reality. Ryan Day's teams in non-conference games where they are significantly better have never been close. He's only actually lost to one unranked opponent in his tenure at Ohio State, and that was last year against Michigan. There's been, there's always a yearly close call in conference. 2024 Nebraska, 2023 Wisconsin, 2022 Northwestern, 2021 Nebraska, 2020 Indiana. There's always that one conference game where they're a heavy favorite and they're just kind of sleepy. And, but they always win and they pull it out. The other thing, too, is, and you've heard this from Chris and myself a lot, the NFL pedigree that Ryan Day has, that his staff has. They look at opponents, besides Michigan, I'll say, everybody else as a nameless, faceless team. It doesn't matter where they play, what school they play for, what conference they're in. It doesn't matter. It's scheme over name over anything else. There's no emotion. It's just, what does Ohio University do well? How do we take that away? What do they not do well? How do we exploit that? That's the only thing that matters to Ryan Day and his NFL offensive game planning, and then Matt Patricia, his defensive game planning. That's just how they operate. They're nameless faces. And they're just trying to win a football game. They don't really care, how talented you are. They're just looking at what you do off as a team. What do we want to see on offense, and what do we want to see on defense? Last week against Grambling, we wanted to see the passing game explode. We wanted to see Julian Sain spin it. We wanted to see the receivers kind of show themselves, show what they're capable of, and we can say that they did that A+. They checked that box, not even close. And it just seems to be that, they did what they went out to. It looked like they had a plan to do that. They wanted to do that, and they did it. This week, I want to see the run game show itself. I want to see the run game explode. I want to see them offensive line maul. I want to see them really put some explosive runs. Right now, the team's averaging 4.9 yards a carry. Peoples and Donaldson are both under 5 yards a carry. Not something that we really are accustomed to, which we really like. They need more explosive runs. So when I say explosive runs, I mean 15 yards. And these type of runs change your offense. They make it more explosive. They make it more dimensional. and it allows the quarterback in the passing game to attack all levels of the field. In 2023, we could say that our offense was good but not great, not a championship level offense. In 2023, we had 24 explosive runs, 24 runs of 15 yards or more. In 2024, we had 46. So almost double the amount of 15-yard runs, which in a 16-game season, which they played, it comes out to three 15-yard runs a game. Now, I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure we can also say that there were more explosive pass plays in 2024 than 2023. And I would say those are probably 20 yards or more. So I feel like if the running game pops and has explosive runs, this offense is going to take off and do what we think it can, what they're capable of. Because make no mistake, Julian Sain can throw the football. Jeremiah Smith is the best player in college football. Carnell Tate is going to be wide receiver 1 in this draft, and we'll talk about him in a minute. The running game, though, if they are capable of hitting, 2 to 4 explosive runs a game, they're going to be really tough to stop. Bo Jackson against Grambling State, we had no explosive runs against Texas. If you shouldn't be surprised by that based on the total yardage, the offensive performance, and that's okay because Texas is going to be the second best defense behind Ohio State. But Bo Jackson had 2 of the 3 explosive runs against Grambling, and to me, this is something that we need to pay attention to against Ohio. I think this is the last chance. This should be the last chance for Peoples and Donaldson as the duo with this starting offensive line. If Peoples and Donaldson can't pop 15 yards, a couple explosive runs here and there, I think Bo needs to, and Bo does it again. I think Bo needs to start getting looked at in that, getting the chance to run behind a starting offensive line. Essentially, they need the Trey Henderson effect. Trey Henderson was explosive. He had all the big runs. Quinshawn had his fair share, but Trey Henderson really was the guy that had the burst, had the big run potential, and that's kind of what this offense is looking for. So I'll be looking forward to watching the offensive line make some holes, create some big explosive runs, and seeing the running backs take advantage of that. Defensively, I'm not expecting too much, but I am interested to see how Matt Patricia is going to scheme up Parker Navarro and his ability to run and the zone read. Ohio likes to do the zone read, the RPOs, involving the run. Navarro is their leading rusher. Their quarterback is their leading rusher. So, and the reason why this is interesting is because Washington's quarterback, Damon Williams, is also a good running quarterback. And in 2 weeks, we're going to travel to Washington. It's going to be one of the bigger tests of the year, probably the top third of their schedule, the toughest games. It'll be Julian Sain's first road test in a very hostile environment, a loud stadium. But just seeing how Matt Patricia is going to scheme up a running style quarterback, I'll be interested to see what that looks like. That's really the only thing I'm looking for. The defense is on pace to be the number 1 defense in the country. I think it's the best back 7 in the country. I don't even think it's particularly close. The improvements that Igmanosin has made by keeping his hands to himself, I think Jermaine Matthews Jr. is a better cover corner than Denzel Burke. I think there are things that Denzel offered you that Jermaine maybe doesn't. But as far as just being a straight cover corner, ball hawk, making plays on the football, Jermaine Matthews is going to be better than Denzel Burke. And Caleb Downs is being used more in different ways than he was last year. He was lined up everywhere, literally everywhere on the line. He lined up outside as a corner. He lined up in the box as a linebacker. He's lined up as a deep safety. He's moving around, and it's putting stress on the quarterback pre-snap, which is exactly where Ohio State beat Texas's offense, was pre-snap to post-snap. The opposing quarterback has to find where Caleb Downs is at all times. The one thing that we do need more of for the Ohio State defense is a pass rush from the defensive linemen, especially. Most of our pass rush is coming from linebacker blitzes, safety blitzes, corner blitzes. We need to see more. Kenyatta has been less than what I thought. I think Bo Atkinson might be a straight miss, unfortunately. He looked very stiff against Texas. no impact in the Grambling State game where he should have been, an impact player. Caden Curry is a really good player. Caden McDonald is absolute stud. Edric Houston's kind of going through some first time starter stuff. I think he's trying to prove himself, a little aggressive. I think he's going to be just fine. I really do. But I would really like to see something from Kenyatta Jackson. And if Bo Atkinson's going to continue to be a non-factor, essentially, then I think the conversation about having C.J. Hicks become a starting defensive end needs to happen as well. So, but I'm not worried about the defense at all. I think they're going to be great. I think they're going to be the best defense in the country again. And, they're going to take us, they're going to carry us in games where Julian Sand may struggle because he is still a young player. So looking forward to that. Seeing how they manage their running quarterback, I think it's going to be interesting, a little nugget to watch, but shouldn't be any stress at all. The other thing that I want to talk about is that there's been this sort of narrative inside of Buckeye Nation that I think that Brandon Inniss isn't very good. And I think there's a couple reasons, and I want to kind of get into it. In the past, the Z receiver opposite, Marv, opposite not opposite Garrett because Chris Olave, but like opposite Marv, and even last year opposite Jeremiah, the Z receiver position has sort of been a forgotten pass catcher, the third option, because partly because we've had super talented slot receivers like JSN, Mekhi Ibuka, also because the style in which Ryan Day's pass game operates. But this year, and obviously this is only through 2 games, but Carnell Tate has 7 catches for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. And there's been a noticeable difference in where the ball is going in the air because of Carnell's talent. Obviously, Jeremiah is going to do Jeremiah things, but if they can continue this rate of production, the 2 outside receivers, I think they're going to challenge, and I don't even think if they're going to challenge, and I think they'll pass. If they can stay at this clip, they're going to pass and become the best duo at Ohio State. G5 and Chris Olave. G5 and JSN that that year was special. And that's probably the one they have to try to pass. Marvin JSN, we didn't get to see it, so it's kind of, wishful thinking, revisionist history, trying to, what could have been type of deal. Those 2 guys, if they continue this rate, they're going to be next to unstoppable because you can't double 2 guys. You just can't do it. Defenses can't do that. The other thing is the tight end emergence. Through 2 games last year, the tight ends had 3 targets in 2 games in 2024. Through 2 games this year, they have 10. Max Clare, Will Kazmarek, Christian Bennett Christian, and Jelani Thurman have 10 targets, 3 touchdowns. And I think Max Clare is the best of them, and they haven't even really utilized him yet. So I think Brandon Inniss is going to be just fine. The ball just happens right now in the first 2 games to be going somewhere else. The other thing I want to bring up is Mylon Graham, and he is super talented, but people need to understand that Mylon Graham doesn't play slot receiver. He plays outside. He's probably going to be the Z receiver next year. As it stands right now, he's playing outside receiver. He's the backup outside receiver. We'll see what Chris Henry Jr. looks like when he gets here. But, for the most part, Mylon Graham is an outside receiver. So the hate, not the hate, but the patience with Brandon Inniss needs to ratchet it back up. He's going to be just fine. He's a really good player. You don't just get elected as a captain for no reason at Ohio State. It just doesn't happen. He's a captain. He's a really good player, and to be a starting receiver at Ohio State, you have to be a first-round draft pick. It's a prerequisite. It's never not been true in the last 6-7 years. He is going to be fine. The ball is going to find him. He's going to have big moments. It's going to be fine. Everybody's going to realize that Brandon Inniss is one of them ones. All right, so let's wrap this up for the Ohio State talk. Let's do some predictions. Ohio State's a 30.5-point favorite. Good teams win, great teams cover, and I think this Ohio State's a great team. I got the final score being Ohio State 48, Ohio University 10, win by 38. The Buckeyes, my bold predictions, the Buckeyes punt on their first possession. Everybody freaks out, and then they never punt again. I also do think we're going to see a field goal. We're going to see our kicker kick a field goal, which would be awesome. So looking forward to that. So, yeah, my bold prediction is that we will see the punting unit and a field goal kicked in this game. Bold prediction. All right. Little bit of Tyler's picks here, national game picks. First game, we're going to talk about Clemson at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a 4.5-point underdog at home. I'm picking Georgia Tech. I actually think Georgia Tech's going to win this game straight up. The Troy running back, who Clemson played last week, who was beating them 16-0 at one point. The Troy running back averaged 5 yards a carry. Georgia Tech's running game is better than Troy's. Haynes King's coming back. This is a game that he's made for. They're going to run him into the ground, and he doesn't care. He's crazy. He just runs on CTE and Gatorade. I think it's going to be an awesome game. I also think that Clemson kind of stinks. I think they've gotten exposed. I think the Garrett Riley thing is a disaster. Garrett Riley is a good offensive coordinator, is not getting his opportunities to call the plays that he wants to call, running the Clemson offense. So I think Clemson's going to get exposed, and the ACC is going to be up for grabs, mostly probably coming from either Georgia Tech or Miami or Florida State. Next game, I got 5 games. Next game, Georgia at Tennessee. Tennessee is a 4.5-point favorite at home. 4.5-point underdog at home. I'm also picking the home underdog in this game. I think Georgia is lacking offensive explosiveness. I think Mike Bobo is not a good offense coordinator. I think this marriage with Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo is killing this program. Gunnar Stockton is not a good quarterback. There's no way that Gunnar Stockton can be a good quarterback if Kirby Smart was doing the things that he was doing this offseason in the transfer portal. Kirby Smart was desperate to get a quarterback in the transfer portal, and he couldn't get it. And he was stuck with Gunnar Stockton. I think the offensive line and the running backs are not as good as they've been in the past. I think that this is just one of these times where, this is a perfect storm. Josh Heupel's fell upwards with getting rid of Nico and running with the team that he has, the offense that he has now. This looks very much like 2022 with Hendon Hooker. Really, really explosive offense, and I think Georgia's going to have to score. I still think Georgia's going to find their way to the SEC title game, but I think this is a game that they're going to drop. So I'm taking Tennessee. Next game, South Florida, 16.5-point underdog at Miami. I am picking South Florida to cover, but I am picking Miami to win. I don't really have a reason. I don't really trust Miami. I think Miami is a program that is incapable of getting out of their own way. Miami is the toddler who didn't get to nap. It's 6:30. They're having a great time, but at some point, since they didn't take a nap, they're going to crumble, and the crash is coming. Miami's a significantly better roster. I know South Florida beat Boise State. They beat Florida, but Miami's roster is a little bit different. There's NFL players on that team. I think it's a closer game, but I'm going to take Miami, but South Florida does cover. All right. Game 4, which is a game that I don't think is getting talked about enough. Florida at LSU. LSU is an 8.5-point favorite at home. This game is at night in Baton Rouge, in the dark with the Creole and in the crazy Baton. It's just not. It's like one of the most hardest places to play. Death Valley, in the real Death Valley in Baton Rouge. I'm picking LSU. I think this is Billy Napier's kill shot. I think this is a game where it all starts to crumble, and Billy Napier, the season gets away from them, and then Billy Napier gets fired at the end of the year. I believe in the roster of LSU and Garrett Nussmeier. I'm impressed with the LSU defense, even though Clemson is not very good. I think the way they tackled against Clemson, some of the fundamental things that they haven't been good at with Brian Kelly on defense, they showed that they can cover, they can run, They can hit at home in LSU. I'm taking LSU in to win by 2 touchdowns. Last game, and this is probably the big one. Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 6.5-point favorite. I'm taking Notre Dame, and I'm taking Notre Dame to cover. I think they're going to win by a touchdown, so I love the 6 with the hook here. Notre Dame's coming off a week 2 bye, wild. I think they're going to make some adjustments from the week 1 game. They need to give the ball to Jeremiah Love more. Jeremiah Love in big games has not performed like the best back in the country, like I think he is. Somebody brought that up today, and it was a good point. But I think some of that last year was not fair because he did suffer a knee injury against USC the last game of the season, and then he re-aggravated that against Georgia in the playoff game. So I think while he hasn't always gotten the touches necessary to really have the chance to have the big game, there was some injury there, and I think they're going to make the adjustment. I believe in Marcus Freeman. I think Marcus Freeman's a good coach, and I think this is a big moment for this program to build your program up to make it to a national title game, and then come back the very next year to lose 2 games in a row, your first 2 games, the 2 biggest games in your schedule, nonetheless, would be a very tough thing to overcome for this season. This is a playoff game for Notre Dame. Absolutely. I think it's a must win. I don't think their schedule's good enough to survive without it. So for that reason, I think Notre Dame's going to be a desperate team. I think they're going to show Marcus Freeman's going to show that he's a big-time coach. This is a big-time program, and they're coming back, and they're on the rise. And I think they're just going to give the ball to Jeremiah Love a bunch, both in the pass game and in the run game. That's all I got. Until next time, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure Chris will be active on the channel. Ron and Q will be doing Buckeye Roast in the morning. Make sure you stay up on Saturday night for Chris and Ron's wrap-up show, reaction show to the game. But until next time, I'm Tyler. Peace.